Well, hello. We'll just say hello, Krystyna Lennon, and welcome to Funny Minds. I'm so excited to have you on the show. And Krystyna is a world-renowned hypnotist, an author, a TV personality, and so much more. And I think the first episode, we'd really like to get into how everything really started for you and when you realized you wanted to get into hypnotism. Like, to me, it's like, you see it.
That's not your everyday
Yeah,
profession.
no, it's not your
No.
everyday profession. So I'm going to hand the floor over to you, and let's hear what you have to say and what started your whole career.
Yeah, so I decided when I was younger, I didn't know what to do with myself. And I had a chat with a friend. I didn't know where I was going in life. I was quite young, in my early 20s. And she said, "What are you good at? What do you want to change?" And I said, "I have one of those faces that people come up to me and tell me their problems. And then when they start crying or anything like that, I want to run them out. Don't know how to deal with it." So she says, "Well, why don't you try doing some counseling skills?" So I got on this sort of the journey with therapy, and I was a therapist for years. And then when I was having my son, my second son, he was a big baby, and someone said, maybe try hypnosis, because I was terrified. So somebody knew a hypnotist, a stage hypnotist, and he offered to hypnotize me. And when I say it was amazing, it blew my mind that I was able to get through the labor. It was my second labor, so I knew what was coming, and I got through it virtually almost pain-free, but relaxed and able to cope with every eventuality. And at that point, because I was already a therapist, I thought, right, I need to do hypnotherapy. But how I actually got into hypnotism was many years later. I was working as a sales rep, doing my hypnotherapy on the side, and I was due to get the sack. I got suspended. I'd been busted. I'd not been doing my job properly. And I'd kind of promised my kids that we'd go on a holiday of a lifetime to Australia to see my brother. So the timing of me getting fired wasn't great. So when I got that call to say I was suspended and I was going to be fired, I spoke to my friend who hypnotized me to have my son pain-free, and he was retired. And he said, "Why don't you take over my stage show?" And I said, "Me? No way. Can't do that. Never. I can never speak on a microphone." I had no confidence. And so then, being a therapist, I thought, right, I need to change that. So I hypnotized myself, got my confidence, and I put myself out there as a stage hypnotist. I was really cheeky. I rung his old venues and sort of said, "The show's back on the road. It's the same format. I'm doing it. I'm his niece." Complete lie. Changing my name to Lennon. And they booked it. 6 people booked it. So I did what any business woman would do, and I went off to Australia for a month, spent the money.
I'm sure your brother was happy to see you.
He was, yes.
Happy to go.
And we had the holiday of a lifetime. And then when I came back, I had to face the music and do the shows. So that was a scary bit, but I managed by a wing and a prayer to get through it.
So these shows, are they all over England? Did you go to different countries or?
So I started booking the university circuit. I think you call it Freshman's Week. We call it Freshers. So I'd started the university circuit and I'd booked 6 shows in a row. The first one, I absolutely died on my ass. It was terrible. I'm surprised I didn't ask for the money back, but I'd spent it. The second show, a German TV show, had seen it advertised and came to film it. Then it went viral in the newspaper. And then the third show was Britain's Got Talent. Britain's Got Talent got on my case and were ringing me. And I thought, I can't do it because I don't really know how to do it very well. But in the end, they pestered me. And By the time from their first call to their sort of third contact with me, I'd done another 2 shows and I was feeling myself. I was like, oh, yeah, I can do this. So I decided to go on Britain's Got Talent. And from there, then I've been all over the world.
So that's the equivalent of America's Got Talent. So,
Yes.
which actually really started in England with Simon Cowell, right? Correct? Am
Yes.
I correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I was invited on to America's Got Talent, but I decided to do the world's best instead. So,
Oh,
which was a
okay.
bit of a flop TV show. So
Okay,
bad choice
yeah.
for me.
Yeah, but how are you supposed to know? I mean, you're out there and you're being approached. Once you hit a certain level, you
Yeah.
start getting approached by everybody and anybody, and then you got to kind of sift through who's serious and who's not. And
Mm-hmm.
now you mentioned, I was listening to you, and you mentioned that you hypnotized yourself.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I know.
I
I picked up on
didn't
that
know
too.
Yeah.
that's incredible.
Yeah, so I don't do the whole self-hypnosis thing because to me it just doesn't make sense. You need to go to a deep level. So I record sessions for myself and your subconscious mind works best with your own voice. You trust yourself, I hope, just about. And so it works perfectly whenever I have a fear and I mean growing up, I used to have every fear, every phobia. I was a terror. I must have been awful for my mum. I was a nightmare with having to have the lights on, scared of the dark, scared of heights, scared of I was scared of everything. So, and I've pretty much, apart from my fear of spiders, I've pretty much got rid of all my fears.
Wow.
So, yes.
Well, did you figure out along the way what caused all your fears?
It's generally just I've got to say, I mean, I treat people with anxiety now, and most of it comes from your environment. So being brought up by an anxious mum, like, oh, be careful. Oh, don't touch that. Be careful of that. Be careful of that, over anxious, sort of safety wise. And it just programs them, gives them that kind of format to be afraid of everything.
Sure,
Okay.
that makes sense.
So now you're a zip liner, you climb mountains, you'll
Well,
jump
I
out of a
don't.
plane.
Oh,
You know,
crazy. That's just crazy.
I'm gonna say I don't have many fears, but I'm also not crazy. I like my life, so I'm not gonna jump out of a plane unless it's hurtling its way to the ground. So
Oh,
I value my life too much to do silly things like that. And
yeah.
some people do prove themselves or to themselves, and do things like that. I went on stage in front of millions of people all over the world when I was terrified of flying. I was terrified of speaking in public. That'll do for me.
Well, that's a huge fear for a lot of
It
people
is.
is public speaking in any regard.
Yeah.
So that's a massive hurdle in and of itself. And then if you're gonna battle the fear of public speaking, and there you are on stage having to perform in the sense of the hypnosis show, that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of fear.
Yeah.
I can understand why you would attempt to hypnotize yourself through that.
Yeah, exactly. To get
Yeah.
through it.
I'd organized a family get together just before all this happened. And I daren't go on the mic and thank my own family and, my own family for attending. I had to get my big sister to do it for me. So that had to change.
I remember someone saying to me a while back, like, I happened to say, like, when I was young, I was very shy. I didn't say much. I didn't, I would never like enter a conversation. I always kept to myself. And they turned around and they looked at me and then, like, in what universe are you trying to
Mm,
tell us that you never talk, because I could care less. There could be a million people out there. I'm going to
mm,
get up, I'm going to say what I have to say, but I do credit my high school years because they made us get up in front of the class and if we had something we had to write for homework, whatever, we'd have to get up in front of the class and we would have
mm.
to read our homework. And I hated it, but then it became so normal to do. And from that point on, it just really like helped me.
No, you can't shut her up.
Yeah, you can't shut me up. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because a lot of people's fears come from those days of being made to stand at the front of the class and stumbling over their words, things like that. So that can be responsible. It was responsible for my fear. And it didn't help me at all back then.
Okay.
But yeah, I was terrified to speak up. There's no way I'd have done this. Not prayer. I would have done anything even like this. To then go out in front of millions of people, in front of the likes of Simon Cowell and, you know,
Especially
Drew
Simon.
Barrymore, James Corden. It's you know, it's from where I came from to where I am now, two very different people.
So now what kind of a schedule do you have now? Do you still do a lot of shows? Are you still doing a lot of shows?
No, I don't, to be honest. The shows was never something I aspired to do. It was just never anything I ever wanted to do. And I think that's why I wasn't scared going on TV shows. So like when I've done like Germany's Got Talent, Romania's Got Talent, Challenge the Impossible in China, all these TV shows would invite me. And I was never worried about ruining my career because I never wanted a career. Other hypnotists would be like, oh, it's a bit of a gamble because they can show you in a bad light. I didn't care. You know, I wasn't so bothered. I was getting a pay.
To lose, so.
Yeah. I'm not going to watch it. It's in China. So I couldn't care less. And I couldn't care less whether I was on the TV show. So every time they contacted me, I'd be like, how much are you going to pay me? Nobody else did that. Everyone else was like, oh my God, of course I would. Yes, you know. And whereas for me, I was just like, if you want me to go there, you're going to have to pay me. So I always got paid and paid well and looked after very well. But it was never something I wanted to do. So now now I stick to my therapy. I'm not saying that I'll never do stage again. I filmed a pilot for a TV show recently.
Excellent.
But and it would be my TV show. I don't know how it'll go, but it's not something I am chasing or looking for because it's not, I can take it or leave it.
It's a lot of stress. Produce over in England where you are?
Yes. It's a TV show where I signed an NDA. Just such a blabbermouth.
That's okay.
But it's fine. It was a TV show where we would be hypnotizing people to forget their home. So I would show them around their house and they didn't even know it was their house. Wow. So as though they were going to buy it. So they would walk around their own house criticizing the decor, the bedding, all. Yeah, it was amazing.
That's amazing.
And I've got, say again, sorry.
Did you come up with that concept?
No, it was the producers that came up with the concept. But they were told by lots of people that it wouldn't work. So they came to the world's best, obviously, to see whether to try it. And we successfully did it. And it was hilarious to watch. So who knows?
I would say that has to be it's just absolutely brilliant.
I'm like one of those doubting Thomases. I have to see it to believe it. Like, I would be the person on, the producer or whatever, say, okay, you have to do this to me so that, hypnotize me so that I don't know what's going on. And I can come out of this and say, wow, this really did happen. I am that type. Because I've gone to hypnotism when I wanted to stop smoking and, what have you. And it never worked. It never works. And someone said to me, your mind is too strong and you're just rejecting this. I don't know if that's true or what.
The best people are the people with strong minds. But to be hypnotized, you need to follow instruction carefully and you need to have a creative mind. If you've got those two, brilliant. If you're a bit of a character as well, for a stage show, that works well. But as far as therapy, so if I hypnotized you to stop smoking, it probably wouldn't work either because I'm crap at stopping, it's not my area. I'll hold my hands up. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to take money for something I'm not very good at. It's not an area that I've got any interest. I did a couple of sessions in my early days and they had like a 50-50 kind of success rate. It wasn't something I was going to charge for. So you have to go to a hypnotist. There's all different levels of hypnotists or hypnotherapists.
Really
and they have a specialism. So you need to look at the results they get. So it might not be you, it might be them.
Wow. So it's more along the lines of like a doctor. The doctor specializes in this.
Yeah.
So you have a hypnotist that really hyper focuses
on just smoking. Well, I remember the first person I went to, and she was in this little shack, and
well, that's no good sign already.
right.
And she was this little lady, and she brings me into this dark room, and and I told her, I like in high school, I smoke in the bathroom. I'm like a kid, I smoke in the bathroom, so I don't want to smoke anymore. And so I go home, and like I didn't have a cigarette on the way home, and I thought, oh, this is good, and I get home and I go into the bathroom and I didn't feel like having a cigarette. But when I went outside, I picked up a cigarette. So she cured me from not smoking in the bathroom anymore. But she didn't.
You can't say it didn't work then.
So I got something out of it.
So there's that. It shows me that some suggestion did go in. But if the hypnosis was a bit better, the hypnotherapist was a bit better. I mean, did you just have one session? There's, one session is kind of not brilliant.
Well,
most people need 2 or 3.
I went back the next week, and everything was gone. I was like, this person was here last week.
Well, there you go.
They were gone.
Yeah, there you go. you get what you pay for.
That's true. In life, you do get what you pay for.
Krystyna,
Yes.
you were talking. Obviously, you do a lot with anxiety because that's that was your biggest hurdle. You talk about the fear of public speaking, and you start probably early on in the classrooms. Because obviously these days, where everybody's much more in tune and talks about mental health a lot more than back when we were growing up, because it just for whatever reason just didn't exist back then.
No, you didn't have any mental health.
It just was never talked about, and there was no ADHD. But you got to think in reality, there was probably just as much then as there is today.
Right.
They just never talked about it, wasn't focused on.
Or they might not have really understood a lot about it back then either, too.
I was just a naughty child. I didn't have ADHD. I was just naughty.
Yeah, me too.
Back in our day, we would just say, oh, he's a little hyper, or she's a little hyper, and they'll grow out of it.
Too much sugar today, whatever.
But I would have to think that this is, especially for anxiety, has to be super effective.
Yeah. I've done this for 22 years, and anxiety is the area that I've focused on for 22 years. I don't do lots of other things. So I've spent hundreds of thousands of pounds on my training. Anything that would help with anxiety, I trained in it, rapid eye movement, all sorts I've tried. And I just use what works. I have a 99% success rate with anxiety. So
that is very amazing.
Yeah. Another guest we were talking to in regards to mental health, and I brought up the EMDR, which I've done, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
I trained in it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I literally, when I say it, I trained in everything.
And I'll tell you what, it helped. I did a bunch of sessions. Obviously, it's not just one, but it was the one thing that was super effective because it just hyper focused on that one thing. So I can only imagine what the hypnotism does as well for all the other areas of anxiety. where
Yeah, 'cause
EMDR may not be what you really need. This is a
oh,
great alternative as opposed to medication or something else.
yeah, with anxiety, everybody that has anxiety is, first of all, an overthinker. They overthink every situation and they catastrophize. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
People that aren't anxious don't overthink things. They just get on with it.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, everybody that has anxiety has a really creative imagination. And when I say creative,
Yeah.
what I mean is you are able to think of an event, a traumatic event, and feel as bad as that event was happening.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So
Exactly.
that is how anxiety is created. And everybody, that doesn't have anxiety will give you the perfect advice. Don't think like that. But it's like, that's the perfect advice. And it's really annoying because it's like, how the hell do I stop those thoughts? And that's essentially what I do. I block the negative thoughts that create the anxiety. So I stop it at the source.
Mm.
And then we kind of put in different thoughts, stronger, more positive thoughts. And because every thought you have releases hormones into your nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So if you change the thought, you change the hormone release, you feel differently, you behave differently. So you start feeling different, you behave differently. It's completely changed.
That's to me, it's like really amazing. Okay, you've gone through a
Mm-hmm.
lot of education to get to where you are.
Mm-hmm.
We're sitting here and we're intelligent people and we understand exactly what you're saying, but you actually do this every day of the week and you work with these people. And it has to be very satisfying for you as a person to be able to help somebody to get through whatever it is they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And it's not easy because, most of society now is very over anxious. I mean, it's just the times. It's
Overstimulated.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
exactly.
it's just everything all the time from every angle, good,
The
bad, or
media,
indifferent.
the media sells papers by, fear. So they're constantly trying to put us in a state of fear. So they're sending me clients right, left, and center.
Keeping you in business.
Well, that's good that they're keeping you in business.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't watch the news. I stopped watching the news, reading newspapers years and years ago because I realized it just made me feel awful. Don't do it.
Yes, I did the same thing.
Yeah, we're content consumers. We consume content all the time from our environment. So I am very, very careful what kind of content I'm consuming. Very careful.
And social media too. I mean, you're getting it from that angle as well.
Oh, yeah.
And then you realize, and we've now are discovering and learning a lot more about it, that they have their own way of manipulating information and data and who it goes to and who sees what and what the effect is that they're trying to create, which a lot of times is fear or trying to get you to buy things but that's a whole other aspect that years ago no one really had to deal with. That additional anxiety and overdose of nonsense that you have to try to block. But everybody's got their phone in their hands these days.
It's impossible.
Kids, adults, everybody. And it's like they can't put it down.
Yeah. And back in the sort of 50s and 60s, hypnotists were, brought into government to teach the government mind control tactics for politicians. Marketing have started to adapt. Well, not started, they fully adapt brainwashing, manipulating tactics, how they get you to buy, how they get you a hook, how, they speak to your emotions, things like that. It was all taught back in the 50s and 60s by hypnotists.
Really?
The American government. The American government, people that are high in government, that are high in the police are trained in like NLP, lots of mind control.
Especially CIA,
FBI,
what they're trying to achieve.
Negotiators, they have to manipulate the situation. They have to be able to read people's body language.
Profilers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Now that you
So
put it in that aspect,
it's
yes.
everywhere. Yeah.
I think years ago, back in the 50s, obviously that's probably when they jumped into it and started using it. But when you viewed a hypnotist back then, it was more of a, like, from a consumer or an audience. Like, if a hypnotist came out to do a show, they looked at it as like a magician, like it was
Right.
like a side show.
Entertainment.
Right.
But the
Right.
government was smart enough to know, no, this actually does work if we get the
There
right
is something in
Right.
it. Yeah.
I
It
mean,
really helped
you went to the show because you wanted to see a bunch of people,
And it probably played into
act
their
like a chicken or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you see them at the fairs, and like, oh, let's go to the show. We got to go see the show.
The thing is, lots of people don't believe it's true.
You're right. You're right.
Most people don't believe. They think they're actors or, and people will go up and they'll be like, oh, I was sent back. I can't be hypnotized. Yes, you can. You just couldn't be hypnotized. If I get 15 people up on stage and I have 5 really good subjects, I'm not going to mess about for another 10, 20 minutes with those other 10. I'll just send them back and use the 5 that I've got because I only need 5. If you're not funny, I'll send you back because you're not going to be entertaining. If you've got a short skirt or a low top, I might send you back, or I might keep you on depending on the show. No,
yeah, that's true.
But there's so many reasons as a hypnotist you would send somebody back, but then people think, oh, that the people that are left are actors. No, it's very real. It's very true.
But you're right. What you're saying is exactly right, because I used to think the same thing when I went to the fair and I saw that. And it was so funny to watch what the people would do, what the hypnotist would have them do. And I'd walk away thinking, I wonder how much they got paid for that.
If you think about it, it's a really bad.
They presented it like a sideshow.
Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly
it's
the presentation of it came across.
Yeah, it would be a really bad business model to have to pay people. I once went to, it was like a holiday camp in the UK. And as I was setting up, the guy that booked me came up and he went, do you want a stooge, or have you brought your own? And I was like, what? And he was like, a stooge. And I was like, you mean somebody to like pretend? And he was like, yeah. I was like, I don't need. And he was like, really? But I don't know whether he'd worked with a hypnotist that had before, or, some hypnotists that are nervous, because the worst thing is that nobody goes under. That's happened to me. That's awful, So some people I have heard use one stooge, because once one goes, they tend to all go. They're like dominoes.
Okay.
So it's not unheard of, but it's very, very rare. I've not come across it myself, anybody that uses it. If they're a good hypnotist, they can easily as long as you've got 10, 15 people, you can have a good show.
That's interesting.
Now, Krystyna, you have done in the past working with some corporations in regards to like leadership training.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit. Because I have a friend of mine who has a business like that, so I have a little bit of familiarity with it. But tell us what you've done.
So I have spent quite a long time speaking. So I'll go along and speak at events. And that's how I kind of started. I was invited to do a talk and a bit of a funny show, and I sort of blended it up, a bit of humor, but also showing how you can control the mind. I've worked with sales teams to improve, their sales results. I've worked with all sorts of different areas, mental health talks and workshops, goal achieving, goal planning, all that kind of stuff. I used to run a take back control workshop where we sort of get rid of all the blocks, all the self-sabotage, limiting beliefs to enable you to achieve your full potential. So I've done a lot of work in that area. And essentially, it's the same thing as getting rid of the anxiety. We're deleting the negative thoughts. Somebody that's anxious has a negative thought of, oh my, say like if you're nervous about getting in a lift, oh my God, I'm going to get stuck. I'm going to pass out. What if this happens? What if that happens?
Right.
Then you've got the people in the middle that are not anxious about everyday life, but they're going into that meeting and they're like, oh God, I'm not looking forward to this. Get rid of that thought,
Right.
and then they'll upgrade it to, I can get through this. I'm fine. Is that all you want to be? Fine. What about smashing it and blowing people out of the water? So I've worked with founders of major companies that are not anxious per se, but that are not performing to their best of their ability.
Yeah.
And we're just refining their thoughts. Every level you upgrade, your thoughts need to get better to attain that next level.
It's basically every level, everybody in the staff, no matter what their position, has anxiety or stuff holding them back. Whether it's sales, they're afraid to ask for the business.
Right.
Or they're afraid to present.
Yeah. Or you'll get people that they might be very successful, but they might have a limit of £1 million a year that they can earn, in their mind. And they'll stay in that lane until they change the thought process. You need a different thought process to make $1 billion than you need to make $1 million. You need to be a different person with a different set of thoughts. So every level is upgrading.
That's very interesting.
Because I would be scared shitless to meet you. If you love me, I do. Yes, I do.
I'm not scary.
No.
It's you don't have to do sort of over hypnosis. So, I don't have to ask you to close your eyes to start changing your mind. You can use covert hypnotic kind of
You should scare the hell out of me even more now.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
What if she talks me into being like a jaguar?
Oh,
that's not cool.
It's you start to, and that's what I do with my clients. I use those manipulating tactics to make them believe in themselves.
Well, you're using it for good as opposed to evil.
Right.
Yeah. And it's a tool. It's like, my builder turns up with a hammer. He could smash my head in, but I'm trusting that he's going to build my house with a hammer, not, and it's the same thing. It's a very, very powerful tool in the wrong hands. Scalpel, save somebody's life, kill somebody, is a very powerful tool. It can do damage.
The government was doing, trying to assist the government in manipulating.
Yeah,
that could be used wrong as well.
Yeah, there has been a lot of study on the JFK shooting that somebody was hypnotized to carry that out, and his trigger was a lady in a spotted dress. As soon as he saw her, he was triggered, ready to shoot.
Wow!
And after that, his memory went. And if you look into that,
I've never heard that theory.
But that would make sense.
I know I have worked with people in lots of high places, and that's reliable, fairly reliable.
Wow.
Hey, there's a lot that they've never disclosed.
You're never really, I don't think anybody's ever, I'm sure somebody knows the real story, but I don't think the general public is ever really going to know the whole real story.
Oh, no. We don't know the real story about lots of things.
Oh, well, that's true too. That's very true.
We have the story that we are told and led to believe in all circumstances. So,
but they tell you what they want you to know and think you should know, and that's where it stays, and everybody will have their conspiracy theories, and they'll go on forever. And maybe some of them hit it right on the nose, but you'll never know that because
it's like Derren Brown. Sure have you heard of him? He's a hypnotist in the UK. He's a magician and a hypnotist. He's done experiments where he's taken people off the streets. He spent a few days with them, and he's got them to commit a murder. They didn't commit a murder. There were blanks in the gun, but they believed they were committing a murder.
Wow.
Hmm.
So
That
they didn't
is
actually
wild.
do, but
That is
he made
wild.
them believe that they did do it.
Yeah, so that they were in a situation where he wasn't the one that was facing them, so they didn't know it was a hypnotist or anything else, but they were taken through a test. They were he picked them out of a group of people doing some tests, and then he got them in a dodgy situation. Everything was set up, and they ended up pulling a gun and shooting someone, but it was a blank.
Yeah.
I think they did a CSI series on that.
It's with
They
the
probably
right
stole it from that.
yeah,
remember
with
that.
the right person, the right subject, the right hypnotist, and the right circumstances, it can easily be done. Easily.
That is that's
I have some
beyond interesting yet scary.
yeah, but again, it's as I say, it's a very, very powerful tool that can be
Yes.
used in lots of different ways. You just need to make sure the person that you're using it for uses it in the right way.
Exactly.
There was a lady, it was in America, a lady was raped by a hypnotist, and she didn't know she was raped. She kept going back for the hypnosis sessions, and she realized something wasn't quite right. They put a camera in the room, and the police, I think if you YouTube it, you'll see the video, the police go in and arrest him.
The hypnotist was
Yes.
doing this?
Mhm.
So he was hypnotizing her so she wouldn't remember it.
Yeah.
But part of her mind was really cognitive enough.
Well, if you imagine if you've had that done to you, would walk away feeling a little bit different physically,
Yes.
if not just mentally.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You've got to know that something's going on.
Absolutely. Wow, that's
Something's
scary.
yeah.
That's super
And
scary.
people have, if you Google as well or look on YouTube, you'll find videos of people being robbed under hypnosis. People go in and use a really quick distraction technique, and the people just go blank for just a few moments, but it's all it takes to be robbed.
That is
So it's pretty powerful.
Outrageous.
This
That is outrageous. You're like Superwoman. I love it.
That's a
I use my
very
power for good.
powerful. Yeah. Yeah, Krystyna.
We should get her
Krystyna
a
the
Funny
power.
Minds like Superman cape for her. Like, instead of S,
Yeah.
we'll put an A. Super Krystyna.
Yeah.
That's a lot of food for thought, Krystyna. You know?
Yeah.
That
do
really
you have a family over there in England? Do you have a husband?
Yes, I do. Yes, I've got 3 children. So partner and 3 children. So
you could get them to do whatever you want.
that's amazing.
Oh
well,
you would have been able to do this. I would have
my
room, not even known it.
yeah, when my kids, because my eldest daughter's 30, and when she was sorry? Yeah.
30?
Yeah.
It's impossible. You have a kid when you're 10?
Yeah.
Come on.
I was young, but not that young. Yeah. But yeah, so when she was little, I was practicing, when she was, I think 5, I started doing hypnosis. So practicing. So they were my guinea pigs. And instead of a bedtime story, I'd use a hypnotic script. So I was practicing every night on the kids. So the more you have hypnosis, the deeper you go, the more your brain gets used to the process. So now my 30-year-old, I go, look at me. And if I click my fingers, she will drop like a sack of potatoes. And no lie. I once tried it because I didn't know whether it would work. I once tried it and she really fell. And I thought, oh my, I felt quite bad. But what happens now is I go, look at me, and she runs.
Oh my God. That's great.
She doesn't like the rapid induction. So yeah, we don't use that. But yeah, it's my kids still have sessions with me. They'll be like, I need a session for this or that.
Younger children who have problems,
anxiety,
ADHD, would you suggest, if that child was really out of hand for a parent, would you suggest hypnosis?
What you mean, to make them behave?
Yeah.
I think at this point she can make anybody do anything.
I think with that situation, there's probably something, wrong with the child or something, or the parent. You know, I've had parents bring children to me, and I've said that there's nothing wrong with your child. The problem's with you. You know,
exactly.
so it's you have to be careful. I think I try to work as ethically as I possibly can, and there's some things that I won't touch, there's some things I don't want to touch. You know, some people are anxious about things. It's like, well, you need to be anxious about that, to be honest. So that's something you need to be worried about. So some things you don't want to remove.
Well, you can't make people void of their feelings and natural, you know. But I think when it just
the right person, you could.
Well, obviously,
there's some people are very suggestible, and you could literally do anything with that person. And the worst hypnotist in the world would just go, you're feeling sleepy, you're being hypnotized, you wake up and you won't be anxious anymore. And that'd work on these people because they are so suggestible.
Easier subjects.
That's very interesting. I mean, like, your whole concept of what you do is so incredibly interesting.
I believe it.
Yeah, I do too.
Absolutely.
I love it. I'm fascinated.
Well, yeah, the sideshow version is for entertainment. And, you know, and that's exactly what it is. It's entertaining. It's fun. It's you like to see it. It's just something that people gravitate towards.
In the same realm of like watching a guy wrestle a bear, but at the same time, what you're doing is very serious and is obviously proven and has been for a long time. But seeing it used in this the way you're using it, which is you're going to be uber busy for a long time.
And as well, I think, because I've done TV work and I've been put in a privileged position, I can and have been able to carry out experiments, you know, to see what is possible. Nothing horrible, but just like, could you make a person do this or do that, or could we, you know? So I've tried lots of different things. So for instance, one of the things on TV shows, everybody just goes, oh, it's brilliant. You know, when I do like a Got Talent or a, you know, something like that, they'll go, it's brilliant. All the judges will be like, I'm amazed, but we don't believe it. So it was like, right, how can I make them believe it? So for instance, I did some experiments with people where I would get somebody that was hypnotized and somebody that was not hypnotized. And I would get them both to plunge their hand in ice cold water. And the person that wasn't hypnotized, within literally seconds, you know, I'd get this big hunky guy and he'd be like, God, no, I can't. And then this little old lady would be there with a hand in going, oh, it's lovely and warm. It's so warm and it's nice and comfortable. And I'd be like, to the guy, I'd be like, put your hand back in. And they'd be like, I can't keep, and I don't know how she's doing it. And I'd give them something that's banned in the UK is eating an onion and thinking it's something else. But I was like giving them some lemon to eat. And you can tell when somebody eats a lemon, you can't keep a straight face.
Oh, no.
You know?
You'd be like,
it's awful. But these people were eating a lemon like it was their favorite fruit. Like, and they were like, can I have some more? So the only expression on their face was one of pleasure. And you can't do that unless you're enjoying it.
Really? Well, Krystyna, we're gonna end this session because we have 2 sessions with you. You're so interesting. So we're gonna end this session. We're gonna say goodbye to Krystyna and pick her up again in a few minutes for our second session. But I appreciate everything that we did today because I mean, like, you're just astounding. I'm really blown away by you.
Thank you.
And I'm sure, exactly. So I have to say to our audience, I'm sure you're going to enjoy this episode. I'm sure you're going to enjoy the next episode. And thank you for joining us on Funny Minds. And remember, if you go to funnyminds.com, on our site, you will find our store where there's a lot of different things that you can buy. Also, there are 2 agencies, or I should say organizations, that are very dear to our hearts. And there's a donate button, and that's St. Jude's Children's Hospital and Women's Breast Cancer. So if you can, please donate to them. And if there's anybody you would like to see on the show that we can possibly get, or maybe you know somebody that would be good for the show, or you have just any thoughts that you have, or whether they're negative or positive, our emails are on there. There's a form on there. Just please get in touch with us, and we'd be very happy to listen to anything that you have to say. So with that, Krystyna, I'm going to say goodbye to you and see you in a few minutes for
Thank
our
you.
second episode. And for everybody out there, stay healthy, be happy, be wise, and always laugh. Bye-bye now.
Bye.